Welcome back, all my 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ here at Tim's Nation to bring you my list that will be facing off against Lane and his Votann later on this evening. This list is the second round for our Tim's Nation tournament to crown our first champion. These first preliminary rounds, we're running our more competitive list. We're later on to it. We might be tailoring these factions to face off specifically against the factions that they're facing. And that's a big part of this tournament, this title, this championship. That will be something to continue on the channel going into the future. So today I will be bringing the Admech back to face off against Votann. This is, we've done this a couple of times on the channel where the Votann have faced off against the Mechanicus. And this is, they're no stranger to each other. Today, we have made some shifts to the Mechanicus. I have not tested this list out yet, but I made some changes to try to reduce how much I'm giving up on fixed secondaries. Where before, I was giving up so much for Assassinate and Bring It Down that those were almost auto takes. And I saw that definitely in the World Eater, saw it in many, many games, that it was just like, you take these, and even if you don't table me, you're still getting so many points that it's too risky. So now we've reduced that down where it's still 20 and 20 on Assassinate and Bring It Down, but that means you're basically tabling me at that point. And some things happen with the data slides, and I have not had a chance to run Mechanicus since then with some of the point changes, so that's what we're going to be working with. As always, guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do. Turn on the bell to get notified on all the content we're bringing here on the channel. And with that being said, let's take a look at the cybernetic cohort I'm bringing today. All right. Let's go. This is the cybernetic cohort that is going to be facing off against the Votann tonight. Now, with the cybernetic cohort, this gives a lot of buffs to my robots, mostly in the Doctrina, both defensive and offensive. The defensive buff is I count all my weapons as heavy, as well as armor and contempt, as long as I'm within my deployment zone, not wholly. And if I'm shooting at the offensive side of things, is if I'm shooting at a unit that's within my opponent's deployment zone, then I get +1 AP. And then I also treat all my weapons as having assault. So this is something that a majority of this army already has. But now with the Castellan robots, the Castellan robots don't initially have Doctrina. This detachment allows them to have that. A lot of my stratagems function in the command phase. So by reducing, and they function against vehicles too. So by reducing the amount of vehicles I have, I should be able to do a lot more things with the strats overall to be able to make my units defensive, make my units hit harder, and be able to have the CP to function and fight and all that cool stuff. At least that's the theory that I have with this. So I don't know 100% how. So one of the weaknesses that I notice with the robots is it's their difficult ability to shoot at units that they need to punch up to. And that's where I kind of went with some of the destroyers in this, with the breachers and the destroyers. And we're going to talk about those in a minute here. And with some of the tweaks that I made. Otherwise, the robots are super resilient, super tough to kill. And going into infantry, beat them up very, very, very nicely. A lot of their strength is still in combat, though, which you'll see kind of with how I'm loading out these robots here today. Yeah, so that's where we're kind of looking at. Command phase stratagems, guns on breachers to try, or destroyers to try to take out vehicles and have more vehicle play. And we're bringing rangers into this too, because they support the breachers in their anti-vehicle hunting games. All right, so we've been kind of very cryptic with it. So let's jump over and start talking about these units and what we got in this list. So first and foremost, we'll talk about the Castellan robots, which are the centerpiece of this army, centerpiece of the detachment. The Castellan robots are going to be running 2 4-mans and a single 2-man. The 4-man squads, one of which will have 3 fists, 3 guys with fists, and 1 guy with double hand cannons. If I get shot at, the hand cannon guy goes first. The fists, this is to make, I want an aggressive unit. I want a unit that I can start pushing up the field and get into combat and start whooping and walloping early on in the game and be offensive. The second 4-man unit will have 3 guys with hand cannons and 1 guy double fist. So now the reason for that is if I get hit by a combat unit, I want something in there to be able to pick them off. Otherwise, pull that robot first and I still got the guns. Last but not least is going to be the 2 robots with just the guns, and they are more or less to be my backfield home objective holders. Stay in a place, get in line, shoot, and that's it. So all of which will have a data smith. The theory, I mean, a lot of it is basically theories. Because I'm running the cybernetic cohort and everything bases around the robots, the strats base around a lot of different vehicles, but everything is based around the robots. I'm pulling out all the other vehicles and going to just focus on the robots. I'll have the command points to spend just on them and really nothing else because of the strats. I mean, there are some strats, the generic ones that I can use on other units. More on those later, specifically one. But for the most part, it allows me to spend my CP just on the robots and not even think about any of the other units and try to maximize as much as I can out of these robots. And we'll see how that works out tonight. That's the theory, at least. And as I say, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Now, as far as it's tough to say where to go to next. Let's go over to the infiltrators. So I got 2 5-man squads of infiltrators. Value for value, pound for pound. These guys are great. They infiltrate, as their namesake. They have stealth, makes them a little harder to hurt. Their toughness 4, 2 wounds. They have a 4 up, 5 up. So these guys are weirdly resilient. Not the most damage impacting, although when the taser weapons go off, it's a lot, and it still is fun with their little 5-shot pistol. It's always fun to roll all those dice for those guys. Mostly these guys are in here for the secondary game, being able to get a forward deploy with the infiltrate and get onto objectives and just be able to play that game early with the primaries and secondaries as a cheap forward unit that can also zone out, do some blocking. So there's a lot of versatility around these guys, especially for their cost, that got them to be in this list still today. Next up, we'll go to the Rangers. So we got 3 10-man squads of Rangers, fully kitted out. We have the sniper rifle, we have an arc rifle, we have a plasma gun. And these guys, they have scout moves, so they're able to move up and get in a little bit safer positions, which I think is more important than more offensive positions. Honestly, without the Marshal in there, their shooting is very negligible. They have some stuff they can do if they hit. That's why you got the arc rifle and the plasma rifle, because it's like, okay, well, if they hit, this is cool. Now, they do, much like everything else in the Army, they do have the Doctrina buff. So at least if they sit still, they can get the heavy boost, which is nice, or be able to advance and still shoot with their weapons, counting them as assault. So there's a couple little plays there that I can utilize. These guys are not the centerpiece of the Army. If anything, I'm taking these guys more because they are a beacon. The weapons are free, so I might as well take the weapons as it is. But they are 80 points. So taking them it's more for their ability of what they give to other units than anything else. Now, the infiltrators have a cool causing battle shock effect that's worked a couple of times in combat, which is really nice. But their biggest buff is going to be to the breachers, which we'll move over to these guys next. The Cataphragm breachers. So these guys are going to have heavy arc rifles. I have 2 3-man squads of them. The big thing with them is they have full rerolls to hit if a battle line unit is within 6 inches. So there's where the Ranger synergy lies. They're not vehicles. So they're not giving up extra bring it down points, just our 20 off our Castellan robots if you wipe all of them out. But these guys have that arc rifle that's 30-inch range rapid fire, so 2 shots, 4 shots at 15 inches. If it's 36 and I'm misspeaking, I do apologize. But either way, it's a decent range and then not too bad to get that the rapid fire buff. Now, by having full rerolls to hit with 2 shots per guy or 4 shots within rapid fire, the arc rifle is anti-vehicle. So this is where these guys are very important, is there something that can anti-vehicle and hit these vehicles and do some solid damage so that other things can pick it up. Robots do not do that great of damage versus vehicles, even on the twin link. They are still a low strength, low AP, ignoring cover, mind you, but low AP, low damage. They do have the 2 damage shoulder mount cannons, but that's not going to be enough to pick up some of the bigger, tougher vehicles. The breachers, however, can do 3 damage apiece and it's pretty solid. I've had liked where these guys can take a chunk out of a unit or a model that allows other units to be able to pick them off and finish it off. Now, on the treads, there's 2 units that go on treads. Oh, but before we jump away from the breachers, they also are nasty in combat, especially with the rangers nearby. Full reroll to hit on that hydraulic claw that also will be able to punch a vehicle pretty nicely. All around, these guys are pretty good. I like these guys a lot for their value and for their points. And since they're not vehicles, this helps in that column. Now, the other treaded unit is the destroyers. We haven't seen much of the destroyers this edition, mostly because I think a lot because they reduced how many you could take in a squad. So by putting buffs on them, doesn't really do that well. I'm taking 2 3-man squads. No characters, no extra buffs, nothing else. I know there's a lot of people that enjoy the Manipulus on the Breachers or a Dominus onto some squads for those extra perks, and they are very good. The thing is that I look at those units and I go, okay, you're spending a 1 point cost for 3. Now you want the buff, so you're definitely going to try and take a 6-man. 6-man is still kind of fragile because there are 3 wounds apiece. So when you put that many points into them, it's a lot easier for your opponent to be able to isolate and destroy that. And then it hurts you so much more. And now that Dominus or Manipulus, you're not getting the full effect. Dominus being able to give Feel No Pain, Manipulus being able to give a once per game 4-up invuln are huge, huge defensive buffs. But when they still get hit with multi-damage weapons, these guys could start crumbling pretty quickly. So that's why I like with the Breachers just by themselves without a character, and I'm doing the same with the Destroyers. I'm taking 3 of them with the Plasma Culverins. So that gives me 4 shots at strength 8, overcharging for the 3 damage. These guys, their ability is to overwatch on a 5-up, and I searched all over the codex for any way to get full rerolls to hit, and unless I'm wrong, and someone please tell me, I could not find anything to give these guys full rerolls to hit. Best I could come up with was like reroll 1s for call, and that's really it. The 5-up overwatch is still nice. And I mean, for 1 command point to be able to do that, that's still very nice. And I did give these guys the Cognis Flamer. So if someone gets too close or is going to charge, I like having that Flamer weapon, and then to double up with the Plasma, not too bad. Ultimately, these guys are going to be a mild distraction Carnifex, where I can put them in terrain, put them in cover, make them defensive, and just have them shoot and shoot and shoot, where my opponent's going to look at them and question, do I waste my time going after these guys because they're maybe not hitting as frequently, being that they have that ballistic skill 4-up. If they sit still, they do have Doctrina, so at least they'll be able to hit on 3s, which is really nice for the heavy. And then also they dropped in points significantly. So I think it's like 105, maybe 110 for these 3 guys. It's for a 3-man unit. So they're unsupported and more or less just like stationary turrets. And I mean, their ability is called, it has the Sentry name into it. So I mean, it kind of fits for, I think, what Games Workshop is visualizing with these guys. But I didn't want to invest too much behind them, because I do think that if I invest too much, then they draw too much attention and they're just going to get destroyed off the field. And it's not going to do very much for me. All right, last in this army is our characters. As I said, we are working against some of the stuff painted. So yeah, 2 of my data smiths are not painted. We have 3 data smiths. The painted one will be the one that has the enhancement. The enhancement, it can target a unit within 12 inches, a vehicle model within 12 inches, and when it fails an armor save, 0 out the damage. So that'll be really nice for the robots. Otherwise, the data smiths allow me to change the protocols on the robots to give buff to their shooting for 2 additional shots, buff to combat for 2 additional attacks, or a buff to their defense, which is where they start at the beginning of the game, for +1 toughness. So they start with toughness 10, which is a very nice place to be, especially for a unit of vehicles. And last, we have the Engine Seers. We have 2 Engine Seers. The Engine Seers, now, they repair a single vehicle. They have the buff that will give them lone op, as long as they're near a vehicle. And that vehicle that they fix will then have a 4-up Feel No Pain. Now, it is not the unit, it is just 1 vehicle. But that Feel No Pain is critical, because that 1 robot, when I get hit, that one robot that's going to be in the front row is going to be able to, I'm sorry, 5-up, feel no pain. Excuse me, I said 4-up. A 5-up, feel no pain. But that one robot's going to be able to chunk a lot of hits until they, for a bit, and really could mess with my opponent's numbers when they shoot some stronger guns in there, and I'm able to slow down the damage significantly. Not to mention, I want my opponent to pour shots into these guys. Every 6 I roll for an armor save and shooting, I'm doing a mortal wound back at you. So that is the list. I have not tested this yet, but I did reduce things a bit. So now, at least if Lane chooses to take Bring It Down and Assassinate, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him to maximize both of them. Obviously, the robots are a centerpiece that he's going to want to eliminate. So Bring It Down is still tasty, and Assassinate as well. You know, the Data Smith's in there at 4 points apiece. That's 12 points for just destroying them alone. If you can take out the robots, you're looking at 20 at Bring It Down, 12 on Assassinate. 32 points means you're 8 points away from maximum on secondaries. In some missions, that might still be a good place, but we have a lot of damage output. So hopefully we'll be able to see that Admech push forward and do that damage. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. There's a little bit of synergy with some of the units, especially the Rangers and the Breachers. So we'll hopefully get to see some of that tonight, especially with Lane. And I don't know if he's bringing Hecatons. I know he'll have Sagittars, but if we see those Hecatons, I'm going to need something to hit them, and that's where the Breachers are in there for. All right, guys. Well, as always, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.